again, and welcome to War Stories, behind the scenes tales from the front lines of the media. I am your host, Tom Curley. How are you all doing today? And again, very quickly, for those of you that have never seen the show before, me and old friends of mine that were in the broadcasting industry, we get together once a week, hopefully, and we try to tell tales of stuff that happened behind the scenes, in front of the camera and behind the camera. And I can't do it without my crazy co host, Mr. Garry Armstrong, famous Boston TV reporter. Garry, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, and we have someone with us today. Just bear with me, stay with me. My friend Mungo is with us today also. Only pawn in game of life.
Mungo only pawn in game of life.
Sit down, Mungo.
Game of Life.
Okay.
One of the greatest movies. All right, you got to realize Mel Brooks
Absolutely.
is my god. Is my god. Okay, now
Yeah.
the argument I always have is the funniest movie ever made. It's either Blazing Saddles or The Producers.
Or,
No, those two. Okay, now I say that Blazing Saddles has more laughs per second than The Producers, but
absolutely.
I have to give I have to give The Producers that much of an edge. Okay, because for one reason, all right, if you see something funny, after a while it stops being funny. I mean, you know the joke. I mean, you can only laugh at the same
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
However, I have seen Springtime for Hitler from the movies, from the Broadway play, from the movie about the Broadway play, probably 100 times. And every time I
Right.
see that, I laugh my ass off. I mean, like I saw it for the first time. You can't write genius like that. But,
Right.
arguing over which Mel Brooks movie is the funniest is like, you know, why bother?
Exactly. Exactly. You start laughing
One
before
has
it
to be the
happens. You
yes,
start
exactly.
laughing before it
You
hits
know,
you because,
before it hits you, because you
yeah,
know it's
I
coming. I
agree
mean,
with
I
you.
I can yeah, I can call it. I can tell you what's going to happen. I can tell you what the next shot is, and I'm still just and I'm
Right.
not just laughing. I am hysterically laughing. So anyway, be that here or there. Um, so I got some cool stuff. We're gonna jump right into the show, and this is sort of
Okay.
business from last week. So last week I talked about the creation of the overnight news show, Up to the Minute. Okay,
Yes.
and how it came about. So while I was editing last week's, well, that show um, for air, I was trying to find, pictures from Up to the Minute, pictures of the anchors, and it was surprisingly hard to find. I mean, I did, find some, and I was right. The show started in March of 1992, and it went till 2015. So I found that there's a Wikipedia page, okay, for
Yeah.
CBS News Up to the Minute. Now here's where it gets funny. And I'm reading from Wikipedia. The program's on
Okay.
air graphics package and set were often several years behind that of CBS News daytime broadcasts, with components of the news division's early 1900s era graphics package being used on the program well past 2000. These graphics were updated in 2005 and 2006. Okay? Now, you want to know, that's
Yeah.
true. And you want to know why it wasn't updated? Because of me.
Why?
That's why.
Really?
Okay.
Holy crow.
Yes. Okay. When this is true, when we were starting to build the up to the minute control room, that little that little 10 by 10 room, maybe not even 10 by 10, the size of a large
Right.
bathroom, and there were just four empty racks in the room. We came in one day, and there were two PCs, two old IBM PCs sitting in the rack. And I went, okay, what's that? Well, they had some very expensive graphics cards, and it was running a program called Inscriber, and it was a graphics program for TV. Now, we had never heard of it because
Hmm.
everybody else at CBS, everybody else, all other programs used a thing called Chiron. Okay?
Right.
Right now,
Right.
Chiron has become a generic term like Q-tip, but it's actually a product owned by the company Chiron. As a matter of fact, I purchased the graphics for this show is done by a descendant. It's an AI program called the Chironomatic 2000 instantaneous graphics
Right.
generator. But we all use Chiron. We had Chiron operators and
Mhm.
Chiron machines, and we of course assumed that we would be using that. No, as near as I can tell, the vice president or somebody with the up to the minute organization, salesman got somebody drunk, and the next morning we found these two computers sitting in the rack, and we all went, but we can't use this. Everybody else uses
Right.
Chiron, and they said no, because they'd have to hire a Chiron operator. And as you remember, up to the
Ah.
minute only
Yeah.
had three people, three director hyphenates. Okay, so
Right.
we had to use this program. Now, it was a very easy program to use. So our director, Chip, made up a graphics package that was an exact match of what the CBS Evening News and the CBS Morning News and CBS was using. Because every few years they would change the look. So he created
Right.
all these graphics. Fine. Well, the problem now was that you had to be you we had a computer system that the the producers out in the newsroom had to be able to type in a Chiron, okay, uh,
Right.
Gary Armstrong, CBS News Boston, and it would be a lower third, would be a middle lower third, or to the left lower third, or to the right, or an upper. All these little things you see, but you don't notice. And a Chiron operator just makes them up. But we had to create a
Right.
system where a producer could write it and then it would automatically show up in our in this inscriber system. Well, it turns out
Yeah.
you could make a graphic very easily and then you could convert it to a text file. All right? And then it turns
Okay.
out you could take this text file if you were a computer programmer and you could tell it, rearrange the programming so that a producer could say lower third left, Gary Armstrong, blah, 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 and it would show up.
Right.
All right. Well, we didn't have a programmer. We had me. I'm the computer geek,
Ah.
but I didn't know
Of
anything.
course.
I didn't know. So I was, I spent 6 months basically in a back room taking this programming language that I had to learn. Okay. And I really
Yeah.
didn't understand it, but I sort of figured it out by changing a parameter and seeing what happened and changing another parameter. And I had to write all this into code. And believe it or not, one of the guys who was a computer programmer told me, he said, "Oh yeah, that's program is written in reverse Polish." And I went,
What?
"What? What? Reverse Polish? Are you kidding me? What are you talking about?" And so I looked it up. I mean, I thought it was like, boy, that I didn't realize that computer programs were that, racist. But no, it turns out it's a thing. If you look it up, reverse Polish is a
Right.
computing thing. It's a it's a way of manipulating
It's weird.
computer code.
Yeah.
Look it up. So, but the point was, once we got this package done and working, that was it. Okay, when 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 CBS News went and changed to the new graphics package, we all went, "Oh, our package is out of date." And I said, "I am not going to spend another 6 months sitting in that back room trying to figure out how to do that shit again. Hire somebody." And of course, they didn't want to. So The
Right.
package stayed the same until 2005. Oh yeah, here's another good one. Okay, wait. This is the other good thing from this. Uh, the the newsroom behind the anchors was also covered by frosted glass paneling, likely to hide the equally outdated CBS News and up-to-the-minute branding mounted along the walls. Yes, the whole back wall was what was the back wall of one of the early iterations from the 80s or early 90s of the CBS Evening News. And as I said before, on our opening night, one of the continents fell off the wall during the live broadcast. So that was actually true also. And then and then it's oh, and here's the other good one. In November up to the in November 2012, Up to
Yeah.
the Minute became the last remaining news program on any of the big 3 TV networks to begin broadcasting in high definition. That is also true. That little control
Okay.
room that we built in 1992, okay, was standard definition. And you have to understand, the money that they put in 1992 was pretty much the last money that they put into it. That's control room was kept together with chewing gum, gaffer's tape, chicken wire, anything we could do to keep it going. And the only
Right.
reason that it got updated was we also used that control room for a thing called the bulletin center on the weekends, which is where we'd have one guy
Okay.
who was on standby in case the network needed to flash on when there was no crew in the building. There was no evening news crew, there was no morning news crew. So, and we would do it out of the up to the minute control room, the standard definition one. Well, the night that they captured Osama bin Laden, no, the night that they captured Saddam Hussein was one of the few times that the network flashed on in prime time. And so the then president of news, I think his name was Rhodes, but I'm not sure. Of course, everybody rushes up. All the producers, all the special events people rush up to the fourth floor and walk into this tiny little room with this standard definition picture, thinking they're going to do a full blown newscast. And the director, the guy in charge there, poor Art, just looks at them and says, uh, "No, this is what we're going to do." And the president goes, "What the hell is this place?" and, and Art goes, "Well, welcome to your flash on control room." And that's what caused them to actually build the new
Oh,
Control Room 49, which is a
wow.
fantastic control room. And they finally went high definition. And here we built a control room. And I know because I consulted in its construction and used it. It
Yeah.
could hold a crew. It could hold a crew, a full crew, but it could also be run by one person, sort of, because that used to be my job. Near the end of my career,
Right.
my job was to sit in Control Room 49 from 7 at night till 3 in the morning because there was no crew there. And in case something happened and we had to flash on
You were
the
there.
rate the
Yeah.
CBS television network, it was my job to put us on the air by myself. I was the audio guy. I was the technical director. I was the Chiron operator. I was everything except the on-air
The
talent.
world was in your hands.
The world was in now. Fortunately, what would have to happen for the CBS television network to interrupt CSI, NCIS, um,
Right.
the David Letterman show, Stephen Colbert? It would have to be something really big, and
Big.
that just didn't really happen. And over the years that it was created, it was created when Princess. Well, we'll make this a story for another day. The creation of the Bulletin Center, because it's a funny story in and of
Okay.
itself. But the point was the odds of something that big happening while you were there, I had a better chance of winning the lottery. So in reality,
Okay.
the job was, if you think about it, for any of us that were assigned there, our job was to sit in that control room for 8 hours and do nothing except be prepared to put the network on the air. Okay. Um,
Yes.
and technically, if I got up and like went somewhere else and did something, I think I was technically not doing my job. My job was
Got
to
it.
sit in that room and wait. Now, I was wondering, is the pinnacle of success, is the greatest job you could ever get a job where your job is to do nothing?
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, but it's
I.
like,
It's
hey, you
true.
did
It's true.
something. You did something. We're docking your pay. You know. So I would go and we, as we all would, we would dutifully sit there for 8 hours and watch TV. Usually CBS because it was on, right. It's right on the monitor right up there. So anyway, so
Right.
I just got a kick out of the Wikipedia story. So yeah, you're right, guys, and that's why. Um, Oddly enough, nowadays they use a Chiron. Ever since we moved,
Yeah.
when we moved
I.
this, now
I.
we use all the same stuff. Yeah, and so anyway, enough of that. You teased me with an intriguing story. What was it? Oh, something about an event where a big event that didn't
Oh,
happen, or
the story I have really pales in comparison to the stuff you just told. But um, demonstrations come and demonstrations go. I mean, right now we're still dealing with January the 6th, but we had one day back, we'll say the 80s, but it, not quite sure. It had to do with, I believe, students demonstrating over something to do with the change in faculty, or maybe it had to do with the latest ruling that came out of Washington and that they didn't agree with. But um, it had been said, let's say on a Monday, that the students around the greater Boston area going to those universities uh, would stage a protest to let the rest of the world know how students felt about how their lives were being handled. So Monday evening, uh, most of the news stations led with the student body around Greater Boston, where many of the world's finest colleges are located, have had enough, and they're going to be out on campuses tomorrow to show the world how angry they are. So, of course, all the stations led with that newscast, and some of the stations said, "We're going to have team reporters out on the field tomorrow to cover this earth shaking demonstration that will speak to the world, and they will see once and for all how the United States opened its ears to the voices of the angry students. Nowhere else in the world do the students have this kind of bully pulpit. Tune in tomorrow. So, obviously, noon tomorrow, and the stations send their people out, and one of the people happened to be me, and kept the IFB kept ringing with, "Remember, this is a mass demonstration. The world will be watching." I could just see in my eyes, some grade B movie with angry people gathering in the streets and like Frankenstein had escaped again. So we get to the location where one of the mass demonstrations will be held. Noon show. So we're there setting up 11:30, 11:40, 11:45. I'm looking around and I don't see anyone, a few drunks, uh, some more just vagrants in the background. Not the kind of people you want for your angry students live shot. And I could see the reporters from the other station looking around, getting kind of anxious. And I'm thinking, well, we promised a mass demonstration and there's nothing here. And the guys in my crew were saying, we're going to be in trouble. And I was wondering, how can we be in trouble? And this probably sounds very similar to other stories I've shared, where management promises one thing in the way of the previous evening promoting an event and it isn't happening. Like that snow story I told you a few weeks ago. So I'm thinking it's now 10 of 12. Still nobody there except the winos, and I really don't want the winos getting closer because they'll probably ask me what's in my thermos. So I flashed through my head and said, "Oh, okay, here's what I'm going to do." And I had something in my notepad called dial a demo. And it was exactly that. People who just, if you told them the cameras were going to be located and if they had something to complain about, just show up. So I called the dial a demo people and I told them where we would be. And I said, I want you to circle around my station setup, not the other, just my station. And one person out of, let's say, 6 or 7 that I called, actually asked me, why just your station? All the others said, no problem, GA, we'll show up. So we hit to a minute before or 40 seconds of where you do the pre-show tease. And I said, hi, this is GA live in, blah, blah, blah. And as you can see behind me, and you can see all these students behind me. The other station did the same thing, but they had no one behind them. We go into the show, the anchor sets it up, throws it to me. And I said, as you can see, we reported as we reported, students are really angry. Look at the throng of angry students behind me. And they were holding up signs say, go Garry, go GA, go channel blank. We're upset and we're not going to take it anymore. And so we kept the report going and we signed off. And the other reporters were staring at me because they did their report saying the same thing, but there was no one behind them. So the show ends, phone call rings and the phone rings in the truck. I go over. It's not. It's not my channel. It's another channel saying, "Where the hell did you get those people from?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" Well, you had a throng of students behind you. We didn't. And then I said it. I said, don't you understand? After all these years, when it comes down to the nip and tuck of things, students prefer this channel. Students trust this channel's news more than yours. And I got a stream of profanity. Are you telling me the truth? And I said, go check the video from the new newscast. Who had the people? Who didn't have the people? And they said, there's something funny going on here. And I said, well, you have to trust your team. You have to trust your video. Just remember, when it comes down to crucial stories, students and other protesters who have a voice to really, really be heard, students trust our news. We are trustworthy. And then they just cursed me out over the phone, and that was it. Dial a demo.
Oh, so all right, okay. So just to recap, over previous episodes, you have successfully simulated a fire. You have successfully simulated a snowstorm, and now you have successfully simulated a protest. I, if
Are
I
you?
had a hat, I would tip it. Okay. Now I have
It's
something very similar. I have something very similar that's just as funny. Going back to our college days, uh, if you remember, there was a time in the early '70s when there were protests, college protests over the shooting at Kent State University, the fact that Nixon was bombing in Cambodia, all hell bro, the SDS, and everybody, all the colleges around the country shut down with protests. Well, believe it or not, Hofstra did also, but it only did it for about 2 weeks. But the highlight of the
okay.
Hofstra Pro, and we did everything everybody else did. Classes were closed. We were broadcasting on WVHC 24 hours a day. It was, but they planned a big protest demonstration in the city of Hempstead, which is where Hofstra University lives. And a guy named William Kurtz, Kurtzman, I think, and Abby Hoffman. They were two famous protesters of the day, and I can't remember the names, and I
Okay.
apologize. But they were speaking, and hundreds, I mean hundreds of students gathered on Hempstead Turnpike. They closed Hempstead Turnpike. I mean lots. I wouldn't go to say thousands, but definitely many hundreds of students gathered, all with their protest signs. No more Vietnam, get out of the war, Kent State, blah blah blah, and they all marched in to Hempstead to go to this rally. Okay, now the problem was
Okay.
is that the place where the rally was staged happened to be next door to an A&S, which was a department store.
Ah.
Okay, and it turns out they had a sale. They had a big sign. There was a sale at A&S. Now, back then, Hofstra was mostly a commuter college, and let's just say that uh, literally about half went to the rally, and the other half went into A&S to shop. So we were so we were covering this right live, and all I remember is I'm standing on the Unispan, which is the bridge that
Yeah.
links North Campus and South Campus, looks over Hempstead Turnpike, watching the hundreds of protesters coming back with their protest sign in one hand and their A&S bag in the other. And I just went, God bless you, Hofstra
Gotta love them.
University. That's yeah, how love this. So yeah, so protest. That
Their
is very, very
priorities were
funny.
right.
Yes, yes. Well, anyway, well, we did it again. Wow, we ripped right through this one. So on to the plugs. Maryland's blog, Serendipity Seeking Intelligent Life on Earth. Voicescapes Audio Theater for the best in audio theater and drama. A half-hour radio show. The cult radio hit from the 80s is still there. And, of course, my sister podcast, Get Off My Lawn, with myself, Tom Curley. We were talking about life, the universe, and everything else. So, Garry, once again, thank you very much. We pulled it off. And all I can say is see you next time.
Bye.